right, so there's some vocabulary in this lesson that we need to know. So, oh yeah, I want you guys to get a highlighter. Hold on, I got it. Alright, so I want you guys to highlight what I'm highlighting. For a perpendicular bisector, that is, perpendicular bisector divides a line segment into two equal segments. The intersecting segments form right angles. You need to know that. We know because perpendicular means the intersection from a right angle. Equidistant is a point is equidistant from two objects if it is the same distance from the objects. That word to me just makes sense because it is equidistant. It kind of sounds like equal distance. Angle bisector, this is not new. We've had this word since Unit 1. It is a ray that divides an angle into two congruent angles. Yes, that's important to divide an angle. The angle bisector bisects an angle, cuts it in half. Alright, here's some, at the end of this unit we're going to talk about proofs. Proofs are a little difficult because you have to look at a picture and then know the reason why this is happening. So here we're just going to talk about your perpendicular bisector. Here's my perpendicular bisector, that line CP. How do I know this is a perpendicular bisector? What in that picture?
The square thing?
Yeah, the little square. That tells me that I have CP and AB are intersecting at a right angle. Same thing with the converse of the perpendicular bisector theorem. Because of this square right here, that is telling me that I have a perpendicular bisector. All right, your angle bisector theorem. That means that if we have an angle bisector, we can prove that in a picture. An angle bisector is here. How do I know that AD is the angle bisector? Guys, what inside this picture tells me that it's an angle bisector? Look at that angle A. What's special about angle A? You guys see those little...
It starts with like the triangle A.
Yeah, you see those little hash marks, right? This hash mark at A and that hash mark tells me that both of these angles are congruent. So that means that AD is my angle bisector. That you have to know. Another way to know that it's an angle bisector is we know that AD is an angle bisector because these lines are congruent. Those hash marks tell me that BD and DC are congruent, so I know that AD is the angle bisector. Congruency and bisector go hand in hand. All right, next we have the median and the altitude. Okay, these are very similar, but very different at the same time. Your median is a segment whose endpoints are a vertex and a midpoint of the opposite side. So a median is going to be in the middle, which is point F, and it goes up to the vertex. So even though that line is slanted, it does not matter. It is still a median because it's going from the vertex to the midpoint. There are two more medians in this picture. What are they, depending on how you look at the picture?
DC and AE.
Yeah, DC is the median, and AE is a median. It all depends on how you look at it. Vertex to midpoint. Those are my medians. All right, the altitude of a triangle. This says that we have the perpendicular segment from a vertex of the triangle to the line containing the opposite side. So here's my vertex at angle Q, and I'm going to go straight down, and because it creates this right angle here, that is the altitude. Your altitude is from straight up to straight down. And it doesn't matter if, like if you look at the second example here, my vertex is angle Q. Even though it's over there, I can still draw my altitude straight down and extend my triangle. Your altitude creates a perpendicular angle. All right, turn the page, let's practice. For these problems, if you have to draw a picture, then draw a picture. All right, so we have PU bisects angle U and triangle SUT. Let's stop there. Let's draw triangle SUT. Normally, you can label your triangle however you want, especially on your quiz and your test. I'm not going to be able to tell you how to label your triangle. But in this case, I want you to copy what I have on the board. S is my vertex angle, U and T are my base angles. All right, what line is going to bisect this triangle? What's it tell me? Which line? PU. All right, but it bisects which angle? U. So I'm going to start with U, and I'm just going to draw a straight line. And I'm going to label this P. Because if PU bisects angle U inside this triangle, we just completed that whole first sentence. All right, now we need to fill in some numbers. It says, if the measure of SUT is 34, find the measure of SUT. So we need to find the measure of angle SUT. Okay, so because PU bisects, let's draw little hash marks here. Those little arcs. That tells me that both of those angles are going to be the same. Alright, next, it says the measure of SUT is going to equal what?
34.
34. Okay, so that means if I start at S, I go to U, and I go to T, that means that this middle angle U is going to be 34 degrees. So I'm going to write 34 degrees for that whole angle. For both of those angles together, it's 34 degrees. If it's an angle bisector, how do I figure out what each of these angles are? The first one and the second one.
34 divided by 2.
Good. 34 divided by 2. What do you get?
17.
Okay, so that means that this little angle here is 17 and this bottom angle is 17. All right, so now we can answer the question. The measure of SUP, so we start at S, we go to U, we go up to P. So this angle here is 17 degrees. You guys can just cross out where it says state which definition of theorem you use. We talked about the theorems, but we haven't actually got that far yet. We'll do that on the last day. Day 5 minutes. And this isn't entirely new. We've basically done this from Unit 3, our angles.
You guys saw how funny figured.
Huh? Oh yeah, I gotta take that down. we'll tell Ms. Mitchell, we'll remind her. Alright, so PQ bisects angle Q and SQR. So let's draw our triangle. Let's cross out this bottom line, we don't even need that. Alright, so my triangle is called SQR. And PQ bisects angle Q. So I'm going to start with angle Q. I'm going to draw a line as straight as I can. And I'm going to name it P. So now I just completed that whole first sentence. PQ bisects angle Q in triangle SQR. Alright, now it says if PQR is 13 degrees, they want me to find what SQR is. They want to know what this entire angle is going to be. Well, these are angle bisectors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whatever this bottom is, the top is. What's SQP going to be?
26.
Oh, careful. SQP, only that top half is that's also going to be 13 degrees. Alright, so Nate, my final answer for SQR is going to be what?
26.
26. This whole entire angle is 26. So the measure of SQR is 26 degrees. That word bisect is what is allowing us to figure out what these angles are. Alright, any questions on number 2?
Wait, why did we draw the P basically? Is it?
Why do we do what?
Why did we draw the heart?
The bisector?
Yeah.
This is the PQ bisects angle Q.
Okay.
Alright, each figure shows a triangle with one of its angle bisectors. Given that this segment PX is an angle bisector, so highlight that. PX is your angle bisector. So that means that 1 and 2 are going to be what? They're going to be congruent, right? Alright, so it says, find X. That's my job here. Find X if the measure of angle 2 is 4X plus 5. And the measure of angle 1 is 5X minus 2. Because it's in an angle bisector, they already told me PX is an angle bisector. Both of those angles are going to be congruent. All I did was I plugged in 4X plus 5 for angle 2 and 5X minus 2 for angle 1. How can I set this up as an equation to solve for X? What are they going to be equal to? Guys, I have an angle bisector, which means that both those angles are congruent. So what are those two angles going to be equal to?
180.
No. Don't just guess. Say it again on each other. So I have 4X plus 5 is equal to 5X minus 2. They are equal to each other because they are congruent. That is what you have to know. When it says angle bisector, those angles are congruent. This is where you can type this into Desmos, or you can just solve it as normal. You guys know how to do these kind of problems. If I were to solve it, what do I need to move first? You can choose whatever you want.
4.
Yeah, let's move 4X, that's fine. So my 4X's are gone. I'm left with 5 is equal to 1X times 2. Now what do I move?
2.
Okay? So I add 2 to both sides. So I'm left with 7 is equal to 1x. If I divide by 1, x is equal to what? X is equal to 7. We can stop there because my direction said find x. It didn't say to find the number of the angle. We just had to find x. Any questions on number 3? All right, let's look at number 4. That segment PT is an angle bisector. It says the measure of angle 2 is 7x plus 5. You guys may not have that much room, you can put it in there. And the measure of angle 1 is 9x minus 5. They want you to find the measure of angle 2. Take 2 minutes and do this problem. All right, what'd you guys get for your answer?
40
I got 5.
for x and 40.
Okay, your answer should be the measure of angle 2, not your x. So you guys set up 9x minus 5 is equal to 7x plus 5.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, I'm going to subtract x, 7x. I'm left with 2x minus 5 is equal 5. Then add 5 to the other side. So I have 2x is equal to 10. When we divide by 2, you should get x equals 5. However, is that your final answer? No, they asked you to put the measure of angle 2. So the measure of angle 2 was 7x plus 5, but instead of x, I'm plugging in
5.
5. So 7 times 5 is 35, plus 5, you should get 40 for the measure of angle 2. On your test, if you guys give me that x equals 5, that is not correct. Make sure you're answering what the question says. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, now let's turn to the next page, angle or number 5. All right, so it says find the value of x. All right, so do you guys see, do I have an angle bisector here or a perpendicular bisector? That right triangle or that right square can give you a huge hint. Perpendicular. So that means that this side is congruent to that side. And what does that mean for these sides? They are what? Yeah, they're equal to each other because they are congruent. So we're going to make them equal to each other. So if I want to solve for x, I'm going to do 5x plus 7 is equal to 7x. And then work this problem out. Type it in Desmos, or you can talk to yourself. I will tell you guys, this quiz that we're going to have is not super easy. So make sure that you are really focused on the things we're doing today. All right, check your work with my work. All right, so x equals 7 over 2, or what's that decimal?
3.5.
What, 2.5?
3.5.
3.5, good. You can give me either answer. I will probably always leave it as a fraction, But if you give me a decimal, that's not wrong. If you use decimals, it will probably give you a decimal. So Hall, did you write this down? Any question number 5? All right, let's look at 6. This looks like that this is a decimal, but it's not. It's just how it's copied. It's just these specs. Okay, so my perpendicular bisector is going here. So those sides are congruent. What do I know about 2x and 4x minus 14? They are what? They are congruent. So how do I set up my equation?
X minus 14 equals 2x.
4x minus 14 is equal to 2x. Good. Now, Eli, what should I move here?
4x.
All right, so we're going to subtract 4x from each side. I'm left with negative 14 is equal to negative 2x. Now what? Divide by negative 2. And x is equal to,
7.
you get 7. It did not ask us to find the length of that side, it just asked me to find x. So I stop there. All right, last one, number 7. All right, I have a perpendicular bisector again. So what do I know about these two sides? They are congruent. That's how I set up my problem.
4x minus 7 equals 3x.
All right, I want you guys to solve for x. My answer is on the board. Check my answer with your answer. I saw some of you working. I also saw some of you waiting until I put the answer up. That's going to make it much harder for you to know how to do it for yourselves. Yep, you should get 8. All right, let's turn to our homework B.
What an exercise for the 8.
It looks scary, but it's not.
Probably.
All right, look at homework B. What are they asking you to do 1 through number 3? What's the direction say?
Says find the length.
Okay, find the length of what?
Segment AB.
Of segment AB. If you guys should give me X, will that be correct?
Yes.
No. If you do that on your test or your quiz, it will be wrong, because what is it asking you for? AB. So you find your X, and then what do you do with that X? Yeah, you just plug it in to get AB. It's not hard, it takes you an extra second. Look at 4 through 7. You guys see that figure, right? It says in exercise 4 through 8. Oh yeah, 4 through 8. Use the diagram to the right. JN is the perpendicular bisector of MK. Okay, so if you look at number 4, it says find NM. Do you guys know where NM is? Look at your picture. What would that measure, or what's the length of NM? If it's a perpendicular bisector, both of those sides are congruent. Nathan, look at your paper. You're going to have no idea how to do this.
Plus 7 line 35.
It's 35. How'd you get that?
Because A has 35. So,
Because NK is 35, and those two sides are going to be congruent. That's why they told you it's a perpendicular bisector. So number 4, that's all you have to write. All right, for 5, 6, and 7, it says to find JK. Do you guys see that JK and JM are congruent?
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
So you solve for Y, and you plug it back in to get JK. For the rest of those problems, 6 and 7, once you already have your Y, just use that same number to plug in to get the other lines. Let's look at number 9. Go to the back. All right, I'm going to draw my picture to look somewhat like that picture. All right, so they have this picture that says find the measure of ABD. So I want to find ABD. I'm going from A to B and B to D. That's the angle that they're asking me to find. This angle right here. All right, these hash marks here tell me that BD is my angle bisector. If angle B on the lower side is 20 degrees, what's the top side? 20 degrees. So now you can answer your question of what's the measure of ABD. And this will help you with the rest of the problems. Let's just say for this problem, this side was labeled 10. If AD is 10, what's DC going to be? How do we know that? Because they're congruent, right? Those hash marks tell me they're congruent. Does that make sense? All right, what if, and don't write this down because I'm just making this up at this point, but it applies to your work. What if this was 3x plus 20, and this was 5x plus 2, and it told me to solve for x, what would I do? Huh? Make them equal to each other because they are congruent. Guys, you have to know that if anything is congruent, it is equal to each other. Okay? Alright, so you guys have homework B. You can get started on it now. I recommend you get started on it now because then you can ask me questions when you need to.